When chaos broke out between humans, gods, and monsters, it was witnessed by the demon known as Terrorblade. He came up with an idea to change the world in the image he wanted. But before he could do this, he needed to eliminate the 8 pillars of creation. One day, while the Dragon Knights led by Captain Fruling were fighting a dragon, someone came, and it was the famous Dragon Knight, named Davion. Since the dragon had already killed so many, Davion did not waste time and fight the gigantic creature. He fought it alone while the other Dragon Knights hid and watched him. After a few minutes of fighting, the dragon returned to its lair. But Davion wanted to end its life, so he followed it, and soon it appeared to him again. When he caught the creature, he took advantage of the opportunity to kill it. The other Dragon Knights went to the location after he defeated the dragon. Moments later, one of their colleagues said that he saw something in the distance, and it turned out to be dead baby dragons. They followed the path until they came to a very deep pit. Bram immediately thought that this was done by the Eldworm dragon, and that it was probably sleeping because it did not come out to attack them. Captain Fruling wanted to attack the sleeping dragon as well, but Davion disagreed and that they just prayed it would not wake up. They decided to return to the town with the severed head of the dragon to show the people that they were safe. Although the crowd was happy, Davion immediately noticed the mourning family members of the fallen Dragon Knights. He approached the son of one of the fallen Dragon Knights to give him the dragon's fang. He told the child that when he grew up and ready to be a knight, he should take the fang to the dragon hold. A few hours later, they celebrated their victory. Davion wanted to treat his companions, so he ordered more drinks. But the customer named Marana complained because she was the first to order the drinks. After he apologized, she received the beer that she ordered. When she tasted it, she did not like it and was shocked because it was expensive. So Davion decided that he would also pay for Marana's order. Marana found out that all of Davion's orders were free because he had defeated the dragon. Captain Fruling suddenly approached them to complain to Davion about the Eldworm dragon. He wanted Davion to show everyone how brave he was and that he should face the Eldworm. Davion clarified that even if they were 20, they would not be able to defeat this monster, so it would be better if they just let it go. Marana did not want to be involved, so she went back to her partner, named Marcy. After a while, a man approached them. He was whom they talked to look for the lotuses. Unfortunately, he did not have the lotuses, and he could only give them a location. He refused to give more information unless they gave him money, so Marana took out her bracelet as payment. Suddenly, another man intervened in their conversation. He and his companions were about to beat up the man who was with Marana, but they were surprised that he was an elf. The people were so angry at the elves that they wanted to hurt him, but Davion stood up and prevented them from killing the elf. He took the elf outside and made them believe that he would be the one to take care of him, but when they got out, Davion just let him go. Before leaving, the elf told Marana the name Niku that she could find in the Hopstad. Davion found out that Marana was actually a princess, so he became more interested in her. While Captain Fruling was outside and shouting that he was not a coward, he suddenly heard a voice. It turned out to be Terrorblade, who said something that angered Captain Fruling even more. He had no idea that through this emotion, Terrorblade would be able to control him. The next morning, Davion learned from Bram that Captain Fruling had gone to the foothills to attack the Eldworm. Davion decided to follow, and instructed Bram to go to the dragon hold. When he arrived at the foothills, he found Captain Fruling, who had killed the Eldworm Ulderak. The captain wanted to negotiate with him, but because of its glowing eyes, Davion realized that he was no longer Captain Fruling. What surprised him more was when the captain mentioned his past and true identity. The captain told him that if they joined forces, they would be able to eliminate the dragons. Before Terrorblade's plan could happen, another Eldworm dragon, named Slyrak, suddenly appeared to them. When it attacked Terrorblade, Davion moved quickly to avoid the fire. Slyrak told him to run because he did not have an appetite to eat a human. Terrorblade rose again and possessed Ulderak. The two of them fought, and with the power of their attacks, Davion was stunned. After a while, Terrorblade was able to crush Slyrak, causing the dragon to fall. But it got up again and bit Terrorblade, so Davion acted to interfere in the fight. When Davion noticed the core of Ulderak's body, he aimed for it. Although they defeated Terrorblade, Slyrax suffered severe damage. Davion had a little conversation with the dragon, so Slyrax mentioned his death wish. Davion was about to end its life, but the dragon suddenly attacked him. Before Davion lost his consciousness, Slyrax apologized to him. When he regained consciousness, he forced his way out of the foothills to try to return to town. But while he was in the forest, he was surrounded by bandits. He just continued walking, so the leader of the bandits got angry and punched him, causing Davion to lose consciousness again. The next morning, he was found naked. Marana could not leave him in his condition, so she decided to heal him. When he regained consciousness, he was surprised to see Marana's pet, named Sagan. He immediately looked for his necklace, but he got dizzy again, so Marcy just lifted him up. He regained consciousness at night, then Marana asked him whose blood was in his body. He thought it might be his, but he knew that some of it was from someone else. Marana apologized because they did not see his necklace. Marana asked a lot more until he remembered a few incidents in the cave. Because Marana's help, he asked for her name so he could thank her properly. The next morning, they continued their journey to the capital. When they arrived, they immediately went straight to Davion's acquaintance, the owner of the tavern. They got a room and Davion also begged if he could borrow something to wear. The owner also took the girls to their room, even though Marana did not like its interior, she had no other choice. A few hours later, she and Marcy went downstairs and found Davion already drunk. Marana asked the owner where the black market was located. Davion would like to join them, but his condition was not good. When he vomited, a ring came out from his mouth which was recognized by a customer. It belonged to his companion who was found dead on the road along with the other men. Davion tried to deny that he was responsible for their deaths, but the man did not believe him. When the man pulled out a dagger, he retaliated. Because of this, the man just left but he threatened to come back. When Davion picked up the ring, it was here that he lost consciousness. He dreamed of Terrorblade, and it was so bad that he immediately woke up. He found out from the owner of the tavern that Marana went to the black market. They discussed the threat from the guy he fought with earlier, and the owner was worried that his tavern might suffer if they came back for another fight. Davion immediately understood what he meant, but he still did not want to back down. When Marana arrived in the black market, they looked for Nika, the name mentioned by the male elf. They met this man, then they did not hesitate and immediately told him what they wanted. Since the information they were asking had a great value, Marana introduced herself as Selamine's favorite disciple and assured him a big reward if he provided her with what she wanted. Suddenly, the male elf appeared who already had a prior agreement with Niku. Marana found out that her uncle was also a client who had a different plan for her. This was when Niku ordered his men to imprison Marana. Meanwhile, Davion was trying to get a weapon in exchange for the ring he spit out the other night. But the blacksmith did not accept it because he wanted money as a payment. Davion thought of gambling and bet the ring, but he lost immediately. Niku wanted to earn money and quickly found a client who would buy Marcy. But what they did not know was that Marcy was a fierce warrior. Even if she was alone, she easily defeated Niku's men. When the elf tried to run away, Marana stopped him. He was so scared that he was forced to mention the shopkeeper who might know about the lotuses and where they could find them. They immediately went there, but when they met the shopkeeper, he told them that no one had sold the lotuses to him yet. But he knew someone who could help them, and it was a sage. They were given a gemstone that they would use to find its tower in the south of the Broken Peaks. When they returned, they found Davion waiting for the bandits. Marana tried to stop him in his plan, but Davion did not want to embarrass himself as well as the Dragon Knights and the Dragon Hold. Marana did not waste any more time on Davion, so Marcy gave him a dagger. When the girls got to the mountain, they heard the noise of the bandits approaching. The leader of the bandits immediately fought back, but he was quickly defeated by Davion. However, Davion was immediately surrounded by other bandits, causing him to be beaten by them. Fortunately, Marcy forced Marana to help him. Davion's wounds healed quickly and he transformed into Slivian. He mercilessly eliminated the bandits until only one remained. Davion was about to kill the man, when the weapon that was stolen from him was shown to him. He came to his senses and gradually returned to his human form. When Marana arrived, she saw Davion, who was dumbfounded by what he had done. Before the soldiers could catch him, they quickly left the place. They were so far away, and Marana mentioned to Davion where they were heading. Since they were going to a place near the dragon hold, they decided to travel together. Previously, a female elf, named Fymryn, entered the Night Silver Woods to steal lotuses. At that time, Marana and Marcy came, so she quickly changed her appearance. But Marana immediately noticed that there was a missing lotus, so she called Sagan. Fymryn tried to confuse them, but Marana quickly thought of a way to catch the elf. Fymryn successfully got out, and using her power, Marana failed to track her. The next morning, Fymryn went to her colleagues. She showed them the lotuses she got and told her companions that this would fulfill the prophecy of bringing back Miani, the former moon goddess. But she still had to do something, and it was to bring the lotuses to a sage. While Fymryn was getting ready to leave, her companions spoke to her. They did not want to believe the story and prophecy, so she showed to them her power. After hearing her explanation, they also decided to accompany her on the trip. They immediately set off, and a few days later, Fymryn tracked down the sage's tower. They were surprised because they could not see anything, but when they got closer and entered the barrier, they saw the tower. While they were touring around the area, they did not notice that they already been separated from each other. Just a few moments later, Fymryn suddenly went to another dimension. The sage spoke to her because she was able to see his tower. After she answered the questions, that was when the sage, who was known as the invoker, appeared to her. She immediately showed the lotus to him, but after getting all the lotuses from her, the sage told her to get out of the tower. She tried and begged to bring Miani back, but the invoker just said that what had happened could not be changed, and that even himself could not do what she wanted. Fymryn was given a coin, and was transported into the forest, where her companions were also taken. They had no idea that the invoker was still watching them. At night, while they were sleeping, one of Selamine's disciples, named Luna, suddenly pointed her weapon at Fymryn. Luna knew that she was planning to bring back Miani, that's why the elf stole the lotuses. Dai-Fi tried to attack their enemy, but he was no match against Luna's speed. Even though Fymryn kept saying that she did not have the lotuses anymore, Luna did not believe her. She was devastated when her other companions were also killed by Luna. To avoid death, she used her power to escape, but Luna still caught her. When the invoker saw her condition, he immediately acted to save her. He told her that at the end of the old story, they would both make a new one. At present, over the course of several days of the journey, Davion kept having his nightmares. He told Marana that he heard a dragon's voice. But it was not just one dragon, because there were many of them. The next morning, they continued their journey until they reached the place where they had to choose which road to take. Davion would have liked them to pass on the left side because it was safer there, but it would take a long time for them to reach their destination. However, Marana's priority was to get to their destination immediately, so they chose the right lane, which was more dangerous. It had been very difficult for them to walk because of the strong typhoon. A few moments later, the path they were walking on suddenly collapsed. Marana sacrificed herself to save Marcy and Davion. Although she managed to survive the fall, she sustained injuries. He continued walking until she found a cave. When she got inside it, she saw someone who immediately attacked her. She quickly stabbed it before it could bite her. She continued walking until she saw many monsters. After she looked at the thing shining in the middle, she also lost control of herself. Suddenly, she heard a voice that brought her back to her senses, so she quickly ran outside. But the monsters still followed her, so she was forced to fight them. Fortunately, Davion came to save her, and they left quickly. As they were far away, they decided to take shelter first because of the storm. When Marana regained consciousness, Davion immediately gave her something to drink. Marana then told the story of what she saw earlier in the cave. She knew that these were people whose appearance had turned into a monster. Davion then thought that Marana probably thought the same about him, but she denied it because she could see that even though Davion changed his form, he could still manage to control himself. Since the Dragon Knight redoubt was close to where they were, they would pass through it the next morning. The next day when they arrived there, Davion could not believe he would see the legendary dragon knight, named Caden. He was carrying the fire dragon that he had killed. While Caden was pulling the dragon's heart, Davion felt something strange, so he excused himself to go to Marcy. Marana knew that Davion wanted to talk to someone like Caden, and this was the right time to do it. Davion doubted that Caden might not understand him, but Marana gave him courage. While they were eating, Caden told an incident 20 years ago. It was when they went to the city of Leathsham to face the lurking dragon. By night while they were talking, this dragon suddenly attacked the city. They immediately moved to enter the city and were stunned to see the huge dragon. It repeatedly spewed fire that killed his colleagues, and he was the only one left alive. Since then he was looking for the dragon that attacked them, and it was Slyrak. When Caden found its den, he only found a dead dragon and a dead human. But he found a necklace which he knew belonged to Davion. So he wanted to know what happened when Davion fought an eldworm dragon. But since Davion could not remember much, he asked Caden for help. As dragon knights with an oath, Caden promised to help Davion. On the other hand, the invoker used the lotuses so he could talk to Selamine. He caught her killing an elf, so he wondered why in the past 1,000 years, her followers still did not know who they were worshipping. He wanted everything to be over with them and let the past be forgotten. But what Selamine wanted was for them to get back together, saying that she could love him again. They talked about their daughter, and if Selamine wanted them to get back together, he wanted her to forgive their daughter. But Selamine was stubborn, so he warned her of the approaching elves. In Selamine's anger, she attacked, but he quickly left. Selamine immediately appeared to her disciples to instruct them to attack the elves. Davion dreamed of Slyrak again, causing him to wake up from his sleep. When Marana woke up, she went to Davion's room, but he was gone. Caden knew that Slyrak was in Davion's body, and he wanted the dragon to show up. Due to the pain that Davion felt, he transformed into Slivian. Caden released him, and that was when their fight began. Meanwhile, Marana and Marcy were also on the move to follow them. Caden was about to attack Slivian again, but Marana managed to stop him. This was the moment when Slivian had the opportunity to transform into dragon form. His fight with Caden continued, so Marana and Marcy quickly got out of there. The knight and the dragon exchanged strong attacks, and soon they both came out of the tower. After the loud explosion from the attacks, Marana thought that Davion was dead. But suddenly it appeared, and after getting them, they left the area. As soon as Luna and the soldiers got ready, they went to the places where the elves lived. They defeated a village of elves so quickly that after a few minutes, Selamine went there to remind the elves that she was the only goddess of the moon. Slyrak was unable to continue because he weakened after the fight. Fortunately, they fell close to the territory of the sage they were looking for. But surprisingly, they could not see a tower in the place. When Davion came back, he realized he was in another place that was not familiar to him. He immediately looked for Marana, but as he walked around the area, he was surprised to see the other eldworm dragons, like Slyrak and Uldarak. They knew his connection to Slyrak, but Davion could not understand what they were saying. So they talked about Terrorblade, who wanted to hunt the eldworm dragons. They said that when Slyrak heard Uldarak, he was forced to come out of his cave. Vadrak was thinking that Davion might be the demon that was hiding in someone's body. While Slyrak was still sound asleep, Marana touched what Caden had pierced in Davion's body, so Davion felt it too. For this reason, Indrak immediately thought that Slyrak had woken up. Marcy acted quickly to save Marana, and they quickly got away from Slyrak. Slyrak relentlessly chased them until they fell into the forest. Davion had realized that he was not in reality, and he needed to wake up because Slyrak would surely kill his companions. Marana insisted on leaving the place immediately, even though Marcy had a fracture. Slyrak tracked them, so he attacked them non-stop. Indrak looked into Davion's memory and found out everything that happened. They knew that Slyrak had committed a violation, but Lyric thought that Slyrak must have a reason why he did it. When Marana found a place to hide, Marana fixed Marcy's broken bone. Since they could not see the tower, she lost hope. Marcy noticed something in the gemstone that the shopkeeper gave them, and when Marana was about to throw it away, she stopped her. She instructed Marana to use the gemstone to scan the area, and that was when they found the tower. Before Slyrak could track them again, she instructed Sagan to take Marcy to the tower. In order for Davion to convince the Eldworms to wake him, he promised to find Terrorblade and finish what Slyrak had started. But the dragons could not trust him because he was a dragon slayer. He clarified that although he was a dragon slayer, his perspective changed when he faced Terrorblade and witnessed what it did to Alderac. For him, Terrorblade was even worse, so they needed to act quickly before it became too late. The other dragons wanted to kill Davion, so Slyrak could come back and tell them about Terrorblade himself. At that moment, Marana was being chased by Slyrak to keep it away from Marcy. She intended to wake Davion because she knew that Davion also wanted to come back. When Davion was about to be eaten by one of the dragons, Slyrak stopped it. This was when Davion's body caught fire, causing him to wake up. Marana felt glad and was about to approach him, but she collapsed due to the injuries she sustained. She gave him the gemstone so he could see the tower because that's where he could find Marcy. Meanwhile, FYMRYN felt that they had a visitor, but the invoker was expecting it because of the lotuses. When Davion and his companions entered the tower, they were greeted by the invoker, and Davion immediately asked for help. He was forced to offer the gemstone in exchange for saving the lives of Marana and Marcy. After the invoker accepted it, they were put to sleep. She intended to kill Marana, but the invoker quickly stopped her. While in another territory of the elves, an army of Selamine failed to subdue them. Luna talked to a victim, and according to him, it was Koadway who did this to them. Luna immediately summoned the village elder to take it inside the forest. A few moments later, someone suddenly attacked them, so Luna immediately alerted everyone. Even though they had shields, they still could not stop the number of spears that were thrown at them. When Luna found out that the elder was gone, she used her power. After a few seconds, the elves rushed at them, so she decided that it would be better for them to retreat first. After getting some rest, she told the soldiers to prepare again because they needed to return. While they were walking, they were shocked to see their colleagues tied on the trees together with the elder, who was considered a traitor by the elves. Davion was observing the surroundings of the tower when the invoker suddenly pulled him towards its library. The invoker knew that he came on purpose because of the gemstone, but Davion clarified that it belonged to Marana, and all he wanted to ask was about Terrorblade. Since the invoker found out that the wounds that Marana and Marcy had suffered was from the dragon, Davion immediately admitted that he was the dragon who did it. At this time, the invoker began explaining to him the realm they lived in. Among the aforementioned were the 8 pillars of creation, 4 elements, and 4 fundamental forces. The pillars were the souls of the eldworms or the dragons. Using their souls, Terrorblade might be able to change the world to his will. He added that Terrorblade could not track down Slyrak as long as he was inside Davion's body. To prevent him from transforming into his dragon form, the invoker put a binding spell on his necklace. But the day would come when Slyrak became angry. It was very likely to also be the end of him. Luna decided to retreat again, and she apologized to her companions for failing them. A few moments later, Selamine appeared to give her the courage to stop their enemies. When Marana woke up, she immediately hugged Marcy because they were safe and alive. But they were suddenly pulled into the room where Davion was. The invoker appeared to them and already knew that Marana intended to take the lotuses and return them to Selamine. So he showed Marana what Selamine's disciples were doing to the elves. Because of the belief in the prophecy, Selamine ordered her disciples to attack various elven villages. Marana could not believe what she saw, but the invoker clarified that Selamine was showing who she really was. Luna attacked the forest again, and this time, they managed to defeat the elves in this area. After finding out from an elf the whereabouts of the elven leader, Luna ruthlessly killed him. Marana did not believe the invoker and even called him the devil of the moon. The invoker made it clear that he only wanted peace, and to prove it, he was willing to return the lotuses. But on the condition that Marana should return it to Selamine and convince her to send her army back. Marana did not immediately agree, but the invoker gave them time to think about his offer. A few hours later, while Marana was drinking, Davion spoke to her. She told him how she and Selamine met. In the 10 years that she had been serving her, she could say that their relationship was perfect. But one day, she failed in the trust that Selimine had given her. They had no idea that Fymryn was approaching them to eliminate Mirana. But the invoker suddenly pulled her and told her that even the god could not break the rules of the shopkeeper. Fymryn disagreed with the invoker's plan to return the lotuses to Mirana. The invoker clarified that everything that Mirana wanted to happen was also the same as her goal, and she just needed to trust Mirana. When Luna found the leader of the elves, named Drycy, they killed his companions. Mirana decided to accept the invoker's offer, so they were told that they had to take the lotuses to Koedway where Luna was. The invoker planned to find a solution to Davion's situation while waiting for Mirana, but Davion decided to go with Mirana first. After hearing this, the invoker decided to give him an armor. In order for the Koedway members not to attack them, Fymryn went with them. When the invoker took them out, he instructed Fymryn to return Davion to him once they were done. Despite Luna's success, Selimine was not happy on how she did it. But Selimine knew that Luna would find a way to make her forgive her. A few hours after they left, the invoker went to the lair of the eldworm dragon, named Lyric. They both fought, and using all his strength, the invoker successfully caught the dragon. But because of this, his skin quickly wrinkled. He remembered the days when he and Selimine's daughter, named Philomena, was still with him. One day, he noticed rashes on Philomena's hand. According to Philomena, it suddenly appeared since they left her mother. He immediately looked for a remedy to remove it, but failed to find the cure. He tried to get help from other mages and healers, but they could not do anything either. They suggested that he ask for help from Selimine, but he did not agree to this. But because he felt pity on Philomena's condition, he was forced to take his daughter to Selimine. Selimine demanded that before she healed Philomena, the invoker had to follow what she would say. The invoker promised to obey her, but Philomena refused to do it. Philomena argued that she recognized Selimine as a mother and not a goddess. She loved her mother, but she would not worship her because what she needed was a mother. After hearing this, Selimine refused to heal Philomena, causing her daughter to die. While Davion was traveling with the girls, Mirana noticed that Davion and Fymryn seemed to be getting closer to each other. Suddenly, Davion heard the sound of a dragon, and it turned out to be air dragons. They immediately hid before they were noticed. After the dragon got its target, Mirana noticed that Davion was smiling. Davion clarified that he was only happy because he learned how to avoid being eaten by dragons. By nightfall, they discussed Fymryn's colleagues. Since Davion felt sorry for Fymryn after what happened to the elves, Mirana stood up and expressed her thoughts. She reminded Fymryn that because of what she did to the lotuses and her selfishness, her friends were doomed. Fymryn got angry, but Mirana was also ready to attack. Davion immediately tried to stop them, and it was here that he found out that Fymryn was the one who stole the lotuses. He chose to follow her before the wormlings could track her down. Mirana was annoyed that Davion was more on Fymryn's side. Before they went to sleep, she said a lot more until Marcy fell asleep. The next morning, Davion found out that Fymryn had stolen the lotuses again. They knew that she was heading to the territory of the air dragon, but Mirana knew that Fymryn would not die easily. While Fymryn was resting, she was tracked down by an air dragon. She ran quickly and was able to use her ability to avoid the dragon's attack. Unfortunately, she dropped the box containing the lotuses. She immediately took it, but the air dragon noticed her again. When she found a cave, she used her ability to confuse the dragon. When Davion saw her, he realized why Mirana said that Fymryn would not just die, but what worried him was when he learned that she entered a dragon's nest. He quickly entered while Mirana and Marcy stayed outside to guard the entrance of the cave. When he arrived at Fymryn's location, he used the egg to get close to Fymryn. He found out that she did not want to use her ability because she might drop the box. He even forced her to leave the box to him, and fortunately, she agreed. But since he could not take her out yet, he promised to find a way to save her. After Fymryn left, Davion showed up to the dragons, but he was surprised that they did not attack him. It turned out that they saw him as Slyrak. For this reason, the dragons got out of the cave. When Davion came out, he mentioned something that surprised Mirana. They continued walking, and it was here that Fymryn joined them again. Because they had no other choice, Marana agreed. The next morning Caden also entered the nest of air dragons. He knew that Davion just went there, so with his companions, they decided to go to the north. When Damien and the girls entered the forest near the village of Fymryn, they saw the disciples of Selamine hanging from the trees. Fymryn knew that the elves did this, but she did not want this kind of practice. When they reached the village, there was not a single elf left. After a while, they were suddenly surrounded by Luna's men. When Marana came forward, she was immediately recognized by one of the soldiers. She said that she already had the lotuses and needed an escort to the shrine. Since she was recognized as a princess, she managed to make the soldiers follow her command. When they arrived at the shrine, Luna took him to a tent. She gave her the box, but made it clear that Luna would not open it if they would not agree to the terms. They first had an argument because Luna refused to follow the agreement. He went out to think things over, and after a few minutes, she agreed to the deal. She informed Marana that they would perform the lotus return ceremony the very next day. The next morning, Marcy said goodbye to Davion because their mission was over. Before Davion left, he talked to Marana to say goodbye to her too. He said that he needed to fix his problem first, but he promised that he would come in case Marana needed his help. Fymryn went to Drycy to hopefully release him. She knew that she was responsible for why he was there, and it was because of the lotuses that she stole. But Drycy did not want peace, and he wanted war to avenge his men. Even before their conversation was over, the guards heard them, so she immediately left. By nightfall, while the ceremony was in progress, Fymryn and Davion also began to travel back to the tower. When the box was opened, it caused an eclipse to occur. Because of this, Selamine's power was removed from her disciples. The elves knew this right away, so they planned to take advantage of this opportunity to take revenge. Marana tried to talk to them, but Drycy just attacked her. The other elves also started throwing stones at them, so they were forced to fight. While there was a ceremony going on in the Night Silver Woods, Terrorblade suddenly came out of the elder's body. Using his power, he quickly controlled the disciples of Selamine. But just a few moments later, Selamine appeared and immediately attacked her disciples who were controlled by Terrorblade. After Davion saw the moon, he and Fymryn hurried back. Luna and Drycy fought, and even though Selamine's power was gone, Luna's strength still prevailed. But when she was about to kill Drycy, Fymryn managed to stop her. Fymryn attacked relentlessly so that she could take revenge for Drycy and her companions. When Davion saw Marana, he immediately followed her. However, he was surrounded by elves, so he removed his necklace to transform. He used his strength to help Marana get out of there. Because of Selamine's attack, only Terrorblade was left alive. To make Selamine even more angry, Terrorblade mentioned about Philomena. Here they exchanged strong attacks, but Selamine could not match Terrorblade's strength. It was only a few moments before Terrorblade was able to capture Selamine that she could not avoid his powerful attacks. When Marana left, Caden suddenly came and captured Davion. Since Davion was their target, they made him transformed back and then they left with him. Fymryn took Davion's necklace and followed them as well. While Caden and his men were traveling towards the dragon hold, Davion regained consciousness for a moment. They had no idea that Femrin had just followed them. The invoker took Selamine to his tower, but since she could not accept her defeat against the Terrorblade, she begged the invoker for help. She even used Philomena, hoping that she could make the invoker agree on her request right away. But the invoker was already planning something else, so he refused her plea. Meanwhile, the elves did not stop fighting Luna and her soldiers, so they continued their battle. It lasted for hours that Luna's soldier gradually reduced in number and most of them were already wounded. After they defeated their pursuers, Marana noticed that Luna's wound was getting worse, so they decided to rest first because they seemed to be safe in that area. When Davion regained consciousness, he was bound in prison and their leader approached him. He told their leader about Terrorblade and tried to persuade him to help the dragons fight Terrorblade before things got worse. But their leader did not listen to him because the only thing he was thinking about was what he could get from Davion's body. After Caden came out from the room, Ritterfaw took his attention. He was complaining to Caden because his 22-year search for Slyrak was wasted. The other Dragon Knights chose not to say anything because they felt the tension between the two. But Caden just replied to Ritterfaw that he did not care even he spent 22 years in his search, and then he left. A few moments later, he heard the shout of Davion, who was in pain as their leader was taking samples from his body. When he went to the room, he was shocked because this was not what he expected that their leader would do to Davion. He wanted their leader to stop because he did not want to break Davion's trust in them, but their leader said that he did that for they loved Davion. After a few hours of travel, Marana and her companions arrived on one of the ley lines. Although it was destroyed, the other soldiers continued to pray to Selamine. Marana wanted to invite Luna to join them as well, but Luna refused because for her, there was no point even if they prayed. When Davion regained consciousness, he saw Femrin trying to break the thing that tied his hands, but it was sturdy. He recalled the things that happened when he transformed until he remembered Marana, so he immediately asked Femrin about her. But Femrin did not know because she followed him, and she had no idea what happened to Marana. Then it was here that she confessed to Davion about the order of the invoker to return him to the tower. It turned out that she already knew that this would happen to him, so when Davion found out about it, he immediately asked her to leave. Davion then thought that their leader's method might be correct. For this reason, he started to cooperate with their leader in what he was planning to him. Based on the analysis of his body, their leader found information similar to his situation. He might have belonged to this clan, and it just meant that his being human was even more dominant than Slyrak. Bram came there shortly and Caden ordered him to feed Davion. Davion took the opportunity to talk to Bram because he knew that Bram was the one who warned the other Dragon Knights. Davion understood him and their friendship would not change because Bram only followed the order and what he knew was right. Meanwhile, Caden was summoned by their father to gain his trust again. He showed him the blood they got from Davion, which they would use to have a powerful weapon against the dragons. This was when Caden noticed the type of research done in the room on the likes of Davion. But he was surprised when Caden suddenly disappeared, and he had no idea that it was Femrin who disguised as Caden. On the other hand, Marana and Luna were planning how to escape the elves who were chasing them. Luna decided to act as bait so that Marana and the others would have a chance to escape. But she would need the help of Sagan to succeed in her plan. But when Luna got ready, she was surprised when Sagan suddenly disappeared. She immediately thought of Marana, and her suspicion was correct because Marana went alone to attack the elves. Marana successfully defeated the enemies, so while Luna was preparing the soldiers, Marcy saw Marana who was on her way back to them. They immediately walked to continue their journey, but they had no idea that someone was spying on them. When the Dragon Knight's father drank Davion's blood, it immediately affected his body. But he just went back to his original appearance, so he thought he needed more blood. He immediately prepared the blood, but little by little, his body gave up. While he was looking at his reflection on the test tube, he suddenly saw Terrorblade. Femrin returned to Davion again and told him to run away. She embraced him and using her power, she successfully freed him. But as soon as they left the prison, the leader who had been possessed by Terrorblade suddenly arrived and immediately attacked them. With the strength of its attack, the other Dragon Knights felt a strong tremor. Many dragons controlled by Terrorblade also arrived and attacked their location. The other Dragon Knights tried to fight them, but it only caused the death of other members. When Bram noticed that more dragons were coming, they quickly ran, but one of the dragons still caught him. Luckily, Caden came and was able to save him. He fought the dragons to give everyone a chance to enter the gate, and when they were about to close the gate, Caden quickly went in too. Davion learned from Terrorblade that its disciples were currently attacking to eliminate the Dragon Knights. But if Davion handed over Slyrak, then Terrorblade would stop the attack. Davion attacked the enemy, but Femrin stopped him because she knew that he could not defeat Terrorblade yet. Suddenly, they felt something coming and it turned out to be an earth wormling. As they saw its eyes, Davion knew that it was also controlled by Terrorblade. Not long after, a dragon entered the location of Caden and other Dragon Knights. Caden immediately defeated it, but a new earth wormling appeared. That was the moment when Ritterfall wondered that the two types of dragons were working together, which had never happened before. Due to the constant appearance of dragons, many members immediately fell to death. Ritterfall tried to fight back, but even himself could not survive the dragons. In this situation, Caden made Bram hold Ritterfall's sword and told him that he was already a full-pledged dragon knight. But after the rest of their comrades were killed, they decided to retreat first. They went to their leader's laboratory, but he was no longer there. But since there was no trace of dragon's marks, they immediately thought that there was no dragon attacked in the area. When Davion got his armor, they also fought the other dragons. Caden was just on the other side of the wall, and when they learned that there was an earth wormling on the other side, Caden immediately took action to kill it. He and Davion worked together to fight the dragons, but after they finished the enemies, they suddenly heard Terrorblade's voice. The enemy tried to control them, so he showed them their bitter pasts. But they did not let this control them, so Caden attacked, but Terrorblade only blocked it. He was about to fall, luckily Bram caught his arm. As Terrorblade was taking Slyrak's soul, Femrin used her power to bring Terrorblade outside. They both fell, but Slivian successfully saved her. After Slivian put her to safety, he returned to fight the dragons. While Caden and the others were trying to get away from the dragons, someone suddenly attacked the creatures, which was also a dragon, and Caden saw that Riley was riding it. She immediately asked them to get on board, and since Davion was able to control his transformation, he also went along. A few moments later, Davion noticed that he did not have his necklace anymore. They were taken to the place of the dragon or by Oroth, where Riley also resided. As Marana and her companions continued walking, Lune suddenly fell. She was getting weaker because of her wound, so Marana immediately called the medic. But the medic could only clean the wound because they did not have medicine. Marana remembered that there was a port not far away from them, and they might find medicine that Luna needed. When they arrived at the port, one of the assigned officers faced them to find out who they were and what they needed. Although he could not decide if they could stay there, they could still treat the wounded. A few hours later, while they were eating, Marana was summoned because the captain was going to talk to her. But when she got there, she was surprised by what she saw. She immediately felt the presence of the one who did it, but the intruder blocked her attack. It turned out to be Van Ari, who was a bounty hunter that his uncle had hired to get her. Marcy and the others drank alcohol and they immediately fell asleep. When they regained consciousness, they were put on the carriage. Marana and Luna would be taken to the Helio Imperium, while Marcy and their other companions were taken to another place. One day, the invoker woke up one of the Eldworm dragons named Vadrak because the right time had come. So the next day, the Eldworm dragons met to discuss a series of attacks on them. They wanted to attack the invoker's tower, but Vadrak had something else in his mind. He did something that other dragons did not expect, causing them to become souls. Suddenly, the invoker appeared, who had an agreement with Vadrak. But Vadrak did not expect that the invoker would betray and attack him. After Davion rested, they immediately met to discuss their next plan. Caden wanted them to take back the dragon hold, but Davion did not agree because they did not have enough time. Davion preferred to attack Terrorblade before it could take the souls of the other Eldworm dragons. Unfortunately, Caden also refused to do this, so their meeting did not go well. When Riley found out the outcome of the meeting between the two dragon knights, she talked to Caden. She knew that what Davion was currently feeling was the same as what Caden felt when his colleagues died. When Davion was about to fall asleep, he heard a voice that sounded like singing. He followed it until he reached the location of the blue ore. As he was about to touch it, Femrin suddenly stopped him. They talked to Oroth to find out about this ore, and learned that it had a power. According to Oroth, this was the reason why he could speak and write. He advised Davion to return to the ore and stay near it until it changed him too. As Luna and Miran arrived at the Helio Imperium, Luna was sent out of the carriage before they went straight to the palace. When Marana entered the palace, she was met by the viceroy named Kashura. She felt a bit sad because he was serving his uncle, but Kashura clarified that he was serving the kingdom as requested by her father, the former emperor. He also assured her that she was safe there and no one could harm her. While Luna was taken to a jail. A prisoner named Jarl tried to scare her, but she just knocked him down with just one blow. Because of this, Hieronymo noticed her, so after a while, he approached her. He liked what she did, but he warned her that she had to sleep with one of her eyes open. Then he mentioned that he and the Jarl had been in a fight for 15 years. Their conversation did not last long because she was not in the mood, but before Hieronymo left he introduced himself to her. A few hours later, Mirana was visited by her uncle, Emperor Shibara. He sent everyone out of the room, but Shibara decided to let Kashura stay inside. Shibara offered Mirana to be his queen because he knew that their subjects were supporting her. He mentioned that Corioltavi was starting to attack, and they also heard about Terrorblade's destruction of the Dark Moon Order. Because of this chaos and threat to the kingdom, they needed unity. Mirana was given time to think about Shibara's offer. When Luna was alone, Jarl took the opportunity to attack her. She quickly defeated two of her enemies, but Jarl managed to catch her. Fortunately, Hieronymo came there to save her. After the fight, she decided to form a new group and even offered Jarl to join them. While Bram was reading something, Oroth spoke to him. He noticed that he was different compared to other dragon knights. He took something for a while and when he returned, he gave Bram a ring which he might use as his weapon. To show him what the ring could do, Oroth suddenly attacked him and was protected by the ring. Davion went to the blue ore and when he approached it, he was suddenly brought to a different dimension where he saw a Slyrak. He found out that the souls of other Eldworm dragons had also been taken. The only way they could do was to burn them all. But before he faced Terrorblade again, he had to find the Eye of the Worldworm and the Solar God relic, then he was back to his world. He told Femmrin what happened to the other Eldworm and even informed Caden about it. Since he had no idea where to look for it, Riley mentioned a place where the Solar God might be located and it was in a place where she was born, the Helio Imperium. The next morning while Mirana was watching the rising sun, Kashura entered her room. She ordered him to tell her uncle that she accepted his offer. When she and Shibara faced each other again, she informed him about her demand and asked him to provide her an army. Femmrin spoke to Davion to inform him of her plans that she wanted to return to her companions to stop them. But she was worried about leaving him, so Davion promised that they would be fine. She immediately left to join with the traveling people. While eating, Caden entrusted to Davion and Bram the portal scroll that they could use in case they needed help. He clarified that he still did not trust Slyrak, but he advised Davion to do what he had to do as long as he would not forget who he was. Before Davion left, Riley gave something to him that he needed to show when they arrived at the Helio Imperium. She said that her sister Lena would be the one who could help to present him to the Emperor. He just had to get to know her and they would get along because Riley could see their similarities. After they talked, Davion and Bram left with Oroth. Meanwhile, Mirana met with the War Council led by Legatus, and the plan was presented to her in case the Elven army attacked. Mirana knew how strong the enemies were, and she preferred to attack them instead of waiting for them to attack their kingdom. From this suggestion, Legatus said that Mirana was just trying to save the gods she recognized, so she wanted to attack the Night Silver Woods. When she heard this, Mirana set Legatus out of the room, but the other members of the War Council also followed her. After several hours of travel, Davion and his companions arrived in the Helio Imperium. Oroth transformed into human form to guide them to Lena's location. After a while, Lena was informed that there was a dragon knight who wanted to talk to her. Using what Riley gave to Davion, Lena was forced to face them. Davion and Lena both stared to each other because they felt like they had met before. Davion did not hesitate to express his reason why he came, so Lena let them in. On the other hand, the invoker and Terrorblade talked because the invoker just given him only one soul. The invoker clarified that they were not both bound by a shopkeeper's covenant, and all he knew was that he was bound in the collection of souls. His words angered Terrorblade, but he could not do something to harm him. The invoker did not expect that Terrorblade knew that he was preparing an elf in his plans. Terrorblade assured him that the day would come when he would beg to take the souls. After a few hours of preparation, Luna and her companions began to execute their escape. So while Davion and Lena were talking, they saw a signal from the prison. It turned out that this signal was for Lena, so she immediately moved to go to jail. When Luna got out, she went on a different road to save Marana, and because Hieronymo learned that she was going to save a princess, he also came along. Just a few moments later, Lena arrived and used her power, causing the soldiers to quickly arrest the other prisoners. When Davion and his companions arrived, he saw Luna. He followed them to ask Luna where Marana was. They successfully entered Marana's room, and Marana was also surprised when he met Davion. Luna tried to persuade Marana to run away, but the princess refused. She told Luna that she found a way for them to get back, but she had to stay in the palace a bit longer. Suddenly, someone attacked her, which was done by Vanari. In Marana's condition, Hieronymo thought that there was no point for Luna to stay there, so he pulled her out the window. While Davion was caught by Asar's soldiers and was forced to let go Marana. When Lena found out that Asar was holding Davion, she immediately went to him. After she heard Asar's explanation, he ordered him to release Davion. They went to Marana's room and Davion pointed out where the arrow that hit Marana came from. Since the arrow came from far away distance, he said that Marana was the only one whom he knew who could do it. After a while, Orof checked Marana's condition. Based on what happened to her, Marana was both alive and dead at the moment. However, he was still hoping to save Marana's life. Shibara ordered Kashura to find the person who started the trouble to punish him. Kashura knew that this person was not the one who hurt Marana, but Shibara wanted them to present someone to the people and punish the man because of what happened to Marana. When Femrin and the travelers reached the territory of the elves, they were ambushed. The Aleves did not care as long as they see humans, they would not let them live. As the other elf approached Femrin, she used her power to hide her companion inside. Then she immediately appeared to them and tried to stop them. But they did not listen to her, and after they left, the person she helped earlier also left and was very angry at her since Luna knew that it was Vanari who attacked Marana. She asked Hieronymo for help. He took her to the location of the bounty hunters because the boss named Herzog probably knew where she could find Vanari. But since she was already recognized as the culprit in what happened to the princess, he was asking for a higher amount in exchange of information. She declined and chose to ask for a weapon, and for its payment, Hieronymo reminded Herzog of the accomplished job that he did which Herzog forgot to pay. When the weapons were shown to Luna, she immediately had her eye on one of them. On their way out, she saw someone whom she could use to track Vanari. So while this man was on his way home, he was attacked and taken to a house. Fearing that they would kill him, he immediately agreed to cooperate with them. The next day Davion had already talked to Kashura, and he mentioned that he was there to talk to Shibara. With Lena's help, Kashura made sure to quickly set a schedule for them. After Kashura left, that was when Lena mentioned to Davion about Marana and Shibara's marriage. He also found out that Shibara's plan was a secret. But few people knew about it, and Legatus of the War Council found a way to bring back Marana. Lena told him that Marana should have never left the Night Silver Woods. Years ago, there had been a rebellion in the kingdom and it was led by Shibara. Asar helped Marana escape after her parents were killed. Together with Marcy, they were allowed to pass a secret door, but they did not expect that a soldier was already waiting for them. While Marana was being dragged by the soldier, Marcy's power was suddenly awakened. Marana could not believe what Marcy did, and even Marcy was surprised. With the help of another soldier, they successfully got out of the palace. As promised, Davion and Shibara had the chance to meet each other. Davion did not hesitate anymore and immediately told Shibara about his plan. But Shibara did not want to just give him the eye of the worldworm and demanded Davion to give him a good reason. He talked about Terrorblade and what happened to the other Eldworm, but Shibara was still not satisfied with his explanation. Meanwhile, Luna was looking forward to the confrontation of Vanari and of the man who cooperated with them. A few moments later, one of Vanari's clients came. Since Shibara refused to help, Davion could not hide his anger from him. Kashura summoned the soldiers, but Davion just defeated them easily. Davion took the emperor out of the palace, but the soldiers quickly moved to try to save their emperor. However, they could do nothing because Davion did not prolong Shibara's life. On the other hand, when the gemstone was about to be given to Vanari, Luna attacked him. Luna fought against Van Ari, while Hieronymo chased after the gemstone holder. When they saw the signal, that was when the person attacked using her power. It turned out to be Lena, and Van Ari was caught by her fire. While Luna was in pain because of the injuries she suffered, someone came to her, and it was Marcy. A few hours earlier, after Marcy and the others left the port, Marcy took the opportunity to call Sagan that their escorts could do nothing against them. Because of this, they successfully escaped so they could go to the Helio Imperium. While the soldiers were fighting Slivian, Lena came to save the wounded soldiers. Then she also faced Slivian and made the soldiers retreat. After the attack, she tried to talk to Davion, but according to Slyrak, Davion was not there because he ran and hid. However, Lena still believed that Davion was there and he would not let Slyrak get him, as well as the Eye of the Worldworm. Their fight continued, and because of Lena's persistence to save Davion, she was able to do it successfully. When Davion woke up, he was in a room with Lena. He found out the reasons why he was not imprisoned, and one of the people who helped him was Kashura. She explained that the chaos in the Imperium was still going on, and the Senate would surely appoint a new leader. Lena blamed herself for the damaged buildings outside, and this was the reason why many hated her. But Davion saw differently about Lena, because for him, she is a hero. Davion remembered that Lena pulled him, so he was able to get back. He knew that Lena could save many, so he wanted her to lead the Imperium so she could also fulfill his mission to get the Eye of the Worldworm. Luna and Marcy brought Hieronymo to Herzog's place to treat him. When they finished, Luna told Marcy that Marana was dead. But when Marcy noticed the sunrise, she could feel that Marana was still alive. While Bram and Oroth were talking, they noticed what was happening to Marana's body. Oroth immediately realized what caused this, so he opened the windows to let more sunlight shine on her. As soon as the curse was removed from Marana, she woke up from her deep sleep. Just a few moments later, Kashura and Asar came, who were also glad that Marana had regained consciousness. Then she found out that Slivian had killed Shibara the other night. Kashura let Bram out of the room because he and Marana had something to talk about. When others went out, Kashura encouraged Marana to lead the Imperium. He was sure that her constituents would love and support her just like her father. At first, Marana was hesitant to accept the responsibility, but since her subjects needed her, she would do her duty. Soon, Legatus arrived with her army for the meeting. She intended to take the throne because she was confident that she would be able to rule the Imperium with her army and wealth. But Lena knew that if Legatus ruled the Imperium, the chaos in the past might happen again. So she would fight her and also try to get the throne. While the two of them were convincing the Senate for their approval, Kashura suddenly came to present Marana to all of them. Marana stated her plan to rule the Imperium as the only royal blood and sole claimant to the throne. But Lena objected to follow her because Marana left them before. She added that Marana just wanted to fight for the Night Silver Woods and for her goddess. Legatus also took advantage of this opportunity to prevent Marana from having the throne. She backed down and just supported Lena. For this reason, Lena was appointed as the new leader of the Imperium. After the coronation, Lena approached Marana as she watched the throne. While they were talking, that was when Lena realized that Marana was different compared to Shibara. She assured Marana that she would rally her army into the Night Silver Woods and defeat the enemies for peace. When Marana came out, Davion met her, so she sent Asar away so she could talk to him. They discussed his mission, and Davion was thinking that Lena could help him achieve his goal. After hearing his words, Marana learned that he supported Lena's leadership of the Imperium. Marana was disappointed on what she found out, so she kept wondering if it was Davion who was in front of her at that time. That night, Asar informed Marana that someone wanted to meet her. It turned out to be Marcy, so Marana and Luna had a chance to meet again. When they talked, Marana found out who ordered Van Ari to kill her, and it was the newly crowned Empress. Marana instructed Luna to go to the enclaves to release the rest of their companions. She chose to stay there first because she still had things to finish. Davion did not waste any more time and immediately went to see the eye. But when he touched it, he did not feel anything strange, so he thought it might be fake. While Marana and her companions were on their way back, she ordered Bram to find Davion to inform him about Lena. Bram thought that they might not be seeing something in what happened. He knew that Davion was a good fighter and could tell whom he could trust. He was sure that Davion could see right away if Lena was hiding something. While Femrin was resting, she heard Terrorblade's voice again. Then suddenly, the invoker pulled her back to the tower and told her that everything would have been over if she had only been able to bring Davion back. She found out that Selimine was also there, but the invoker wanted her to eliminate her to get her divine spark because she would be me and would be reborn again. By noon, Davion tried again to touch the eye, but still nothing had changed. This was the moment when Lena took the opportunity to tell Davion that she was the one who ordered Mirana to be killed. She thought that if Mirana were to die, she would be able to expose Shibara's true character. Davion did not believe her because he was sure that he could feel if she had bad intentions sooner. But Lena also said about the shopkeeper gem. After hearing this, Davion believed her and he immediately left her. When he went to his companions, Bram tried to tell him about Lena, but he told them about what he learned. Mirana also came, and she let the others out so she and Davion could talk. After Davion expressed his dismay regarding Lena, they discussed the eye. They suspected that it might have been replaced by someone who supported Shibara, but was not given the authority to hold the eye. If this was the case, Mirana had an idea of when it happened, but they still needed to find a witness. They looked for Asar in a tavern and Mirana asked him about what happened when her parents died. She and Davion listened when Asar told everything he remembered about the time when her parents were killed. Then they also discussed the possibility that the eye in the palace was replaced by a fake one. Mirana asked who else could get close to the eye, so Asar mentioned Kashura, Seneschal, and Legatus. After the invoker convinced Femrin on what she should do, she went to Selimine's room. They discussed what Selimine had done to their kind who left the Night Silver Woods after they refused to worship her. While Selimine was telling everything that happened, she was also preparing in case Femrin attacked her. Femrin could not believe what she heard from Selimine because it was not what she knew. She could not do what she was told. Instead, she took Selimine to Philomena's tomb. While Selimine was mourning, she suddenly absorbed the energy coming from the flowers. For this reason, she regained her power. After the invoker noticed the flowers, he immediately went to where Femrin was, but he failed to catch Selimine. He was dismayed by what Femrin had done, and this mistake could not be undone. While Lena was having a meeting with Legatus, Kashura suddenly came in and asked others out. He clarified to Lena that the Imperium was like a machine, and an emperor or king was just part of the machine. The successful kings knew this, so they ruled their kingdoms well. While those who did not succeed, fell into the system because the machine itself crushed them. But it turned out that this system was what Lena wanted to remove, and she would create a new system. Kashura planned to give Lena another chance, but he won't do it because she tried to kill Mirana, her sunbeam. When he used his power, it was here that Lena repeatedly attacked him. But it did not work, causing Lena to be surprised. Mirana and the others decided to talk to Kashura about the eye. A few moments later, Davion felt something strange in her room. It turned out that it was not just him because others also felt like they were being pulled. Kashura suddenly came, so Davion directly asked him about the eye. They believed that Kashura took the eye when Mirana's parents were killed, but it was denied by Kashura saying that the eye on the throne was real. As Kashura explained why it did not work to Davion, Orphan began to analyze the room. After he explained to them, Davion was about to leave to tell Lena about it, but Kashura said that he had already killed Lena. Davion could not believe that Kashura could do this. When Orphan discovered something, he immediately told them that they had to leave. In Slyrak's anger, Davion transformed into Slivian and attacked Kashura, but it did not work. When Slivian was thrown in the room, Orphan was surprised by what he saw. Mirana and the others prepared to attack because Kashura began to change his form. While Luna and others were in the middle of their journey, those elves who were with them suddenly felt something strange. Luna also felt it because it turned out to be Selimine's power. She praised Luna for her loyalty to her and was chosen to lead the rest of their companions. But it turned out that Luna had decided that she would never serve Selimine again. Even their other elves also decided to follow Luna because she and Mirana helped them when Selimine disappeared. Because of this, Selimine took all of their power and then left immediately. Hieronymo was impressed by Luna's bravery in front of a goddess. Their plan was to continue the journey and save their companions as ordered by Marana. Salamine went to the Night Silver Woods to free her other subjects and ordered them to attack the elves. When Terrorblade and the invoker talked again, the invoker found out that Terrorblade did something to make Femrin lost her trust in him. Without Femrin, all his plans would be useless. But instead of getting angry, the invoker thanked what Terrorblade did. Then he decided to use the souls of the Eldworm dragons. As soon as Kashura transformed, they found out that it was the Void Eldworm dragon. After Oroth surrounded Davion with ice, he immediately attacked Kashura. He told Bram that they had to go back to the palace and bring Marana to the eye. He believed that Marana would be able to get her father's power, and this was their only hope. When they got out, Bram could not bear to leave Davion and Oroth behind, so Marana decided to just went straight to the palace. Oroth was thrown out because the Void Dragon had already transformed into his original form. The enemy attacked again, so Bram moved quickly to protect Oroth. Oroth took this opportunity to attack Kashura, but this was when the enemy retaliated and defeated him. Bram did not try to attack Kashura anymore, and he quickly went to Oroth. While Davion was unconscious, Slyrak spoke to him again. The dragon had discovered who the Eye really was, and they had been with her for a long time. At first, Davion did not understand who Slyrak was referring to, but soon he realized that the Eye was Marana. Slyrak said that Marana did not need them anymore, but Davion knew that Marana would have a hard time discovering her true power because of the situation in the Imperium. He begged Slyrak to save Marana even though he knew that the possible consequence was that he would never be able to return to his true form. Seeing Davion's determination, Slyrak decided that they will fight Kashura. When Kashura went to Legatus's army, he made Legatus the new leader. He ordered her to return Marana to him alive and unscratched. After Oroth's death, Bram decided to call Caden. Caden immediately noticed the Void Dragon and learned from Bram what happened to Oroth. When he looked for Davion, they saw him came out in the form of a dragon. Caden immediately prepared to attack, but Slyrak had no intention of fighting him. Instead, Slyrak asked him to work together to fight the Void Dragon. Caden immediately agreed, so they quickly followed Kashura. When Marana and Marcy arrived at the palace, Legatus was there to block them. A few moments later, Kashura also came there to pick up Marana. But Slyrak arrived and immediately attacked Kashura. The two of them fought, and when Kashura grabbed Slyrak, Caden came just in time to help, causing Kashura to miss in his attack. When Legatus was about to try to capture Marana, she did not expect Asar's attack. With the help of the other soldiers, they fought against Legatus's army, so Marana got a chance to proceed to the palace. Slyrak and Caden fought together against Kashura, but they were having a hard time defeating the enemy. Marana and Marcy got to the throne, and they immediately went to the eye. When Marana touched it, it also had an effect on Marcy and Sagan. Then she heard a voice telling her that she should remember everything. After Kashura defeated Slyrak and Caden, he immediately transformed into his human form to follow Marana. Asar tried to stop him, but he was quickly defeated by Kashura. When the enemy got to the throne, Marana immediately attacked him. They both fought until Kashura caught her. Marana asked Sagan to attack, and although Kashura managed to stop it, Kashura failed to block Marcy's punch. Marcy punched him non-stop until she was also caught by their enemy. Marana tried to beg Kashura to spare Marcy, but Kashura still decided to kill her. Out of anger, Marana was able to show her true power, which Kashura had been waiting for a long time. After Slyrak saw the light, he said that the eye had opened and it could see. A few minutes later, Marana came out of the palace carrying Marcy. She and Slyrak faced each other, and after Marana touched the dragon, that was when Slyrak returned Davion's body. So Davion can no longer feel Slyrak in his body. Marana was recognized as the god Empress of the Sun and also the new leader of the Helio Imperium. After Slyrak got what he needed, he quickly entered the Foul Fell. He faced the enemy, so Terrorblade released his gathered army and attacked Slyrak. Meanwhile, after Salamine attacked the elves, only Drycy remained alive. While he was resting, he suddenly heard Terrorblade's voice. He was offered to join Terrorblade so they could take revenge on those who betrayed them. He refused this offer at first, but the disciples of Selamine who were chasing him were already behind him, so he was forced to allow the demon to possess him. As members of the Dragon Knights, Davion and his companions continued to fight against the dragons that terrorized the humans. But Davion was still restless after Slyrak left his body because he never once felt the dragon's presence anymore. Since the dragons were still in chaos, they could do nothing but take care of them. From what Davion mentioned, Bram analyzed the movement of the dragons, and the next morning, he showed Davion what he noticed. It could be seen on the map that the creatures were heading to the Broken Peaks and he wondered why. Davion immediately realized why this was happening. He knew what was in the Broken Peaks. A few days later, Luna returned to the palace to inform Marana of what she found out after their travel. When they arrived in the first territory, they found their soldiers wandering around and no longer had the power of Selamine. They seemed to have lost hope, so she gathered them and brought them there because of Marana's request. So she begged Marana to give them a purpose to live. They were willing to fight for Marana to fix the world according to her vision. Because of this, Marana decided to officially enlist them in the Imperium army. Along with the soldiers saved by Luna, Marana blessed them with her solar throne. By afternoon, Davion returned to the Helio Imperium. He informed Marana that Slyrak was dead and failed to defeat Terrorblade. On the other hand, the Tower of the Invoker was being attacked by dragons led by Terrorblade. Using Dryce's body, the enemy wanted to take revenge and get the souls of the Eldworm dragons. He even tried to convince the Invoker to join him in exchange for Philomena's life. But the Invoker still refused because he knew that his daughter would not be happy to live in a world ruled by Terrorblade. This was when their battle began, but even though Terrorblade and his army continued to attack the Invoker, they still found it hard to defeat him. Until the Invoker had a chance to use the dragon's power, causing him to destroy the dragons including Dryce's body. However, he knew that he would no longer be able to stop Terrorblade if the enemy attacked again. While Davion and his companions were talking about the souls of the Eldworm dragons held by the Invoker, he suddenly appeared and offered Marana to form an alliance. He said he needed a god to lead them to invade Foulfell and defeat Terrorblade. Davion was against the Invoker's offer because he had previously cooperated with Terrorblade and might betray them again. But they were surprised when Marana agreed to the offer, but she needed to fix something first. After this confirmation, the Invoker left and promised to return the next morning. Because of the agreement between Femrin and the Invoker, she agreed to meet Selamine. She wanted to ask for her help to reunite humans and elves. But Selamine did not listen to her, and all she wanted was Femrin's loyalty and say that she loved her. She was surprised that Femrin was not affected by her power, then she realized that the Invoker was the one who sent her. Selamine attacked which Femrin easily blocked, and that was when she absorbed her spark. After a while, she appeared to the other elves who were outside as a goddess. She promised them that after the dark moon, a new moon would appear. The next morning while Marana was at Marcy's grave, Davion approached her. He thought that Davion did not agree with her decision to ally with the Invoker. So Davion made it clear that no matter her decision was, he would still fully support her. After some time, the Invoker returned to the palace. He did not expect that Davion and the others would also decide to come with them. Before they left, the Invoker decided to put the other dragon's souls into Davion's body. Davion felt so much pain that he lost consciousness. When he got up, they got ready for their departure. Caden decided not to let Bram join them yet because he wanted him to lead the next generation of Dragon Knights. Bram immediately understood what he meant, so he obeyed Caden's order. The Invoker warned them that the Foulfell was the prison of demons until they came to their senses from their mistakes. When they were brought to the Foulfell, they were brought to the times when they had regrets in their lives. Only the Invoker was not unaffected by it, so Terrorblade took this opportunity to attack them. Although the Invoker was able to block his attacks, Terrorblade knew that he would also weaken immediately. Just a few minutes later, the enemy did manage to break the Invoker's barrier. But Terrorblade did not expect that Femrin would come and attack him right away. Using Femrin's power, Davion and the others finally came to their senses. Femrin tried to fight with Terrorblade, but the enemy only managed to capture her. When Terrorblade was about to kill her, Mirana quickly moved to save Femrin. After that, Davion used the dragon's souls in his body and he transformed into thunder. After he transformed, he immediately rushed at Terrorblade. The two of them fought, while Mirana and their companions fought against Terrorblade's disciples. Caden faced the dragons alone, while the others attacked the other enemies. After a while, Drycy appeared to fight with Luna. When Caden defeated a dragon, their leader suddenly attacked him. Although he fell on his knees, he immediately retaliated against the enemy. Luna did not let herself be affected by her past, so she successfully defeated Drycy. Because of Davion's speed and strength, Terrorblade was forced to use his true power. For this reason, Davion had a hard time fighting him, but he did not want to lose against the enemy. When he tried to attack again, Terrorblade took this opportunity to attack him from behind. He got caught and was unable to stop Terrorblade from taking the dragon's souls. Even though Davion was very weak, he still insisted on getting close to Terrorblade. Terrorblade thought that Davion could do nothing against him, but he was surprised when Davion suddenly attacked him. Using that weapon, Terrorblade lost and his disciples disappeared completely. Mirana immediately approached Davion, but she could not save him and he lost his life. While Mirana mourned for his death, the invoker took this chance to fulfill what he had been dreaming of for a long time. He created a new world based on his wishes, so that he could be with Philomena again. In this world, Philomena found a strange stone. She was amazed by this stone, so she took it to the tower to be studied. After she used it on her test subjects, they became smarter. But a few moments later, she seemed to be hypnotized by the stone, so she quickly put a barrier on it. On the other hand, a meteor suddenly fell in a village. A child immediately approached it, but it turned out that it possessed a strange power. Mirana and the others were unaware that they were in a new world, so even those who had died were still with them. It included his father, Emperor Zell, but his mind was no longer stable, which was the reason why Mirana had to rule the Imperium. While she was feeding his father, Luna suddenly entered the room because there was an incident in the hinterlands. According to the man who came from this place, there were monsters in their village and he asked them to seize and burn them all. Apart from the monsters, there was also a glowing red stone and this caused them to feel different. Since Luna did not believe him, the man killed himself to show them his blood. Mirana decided to head to the hinterlands herself to see what was really going on there. When they reached the hinterlands, they saw Lena, who had just returned from a mission. Mirana wanted Lena to look at the village from above, however, the fog was too thick. For this reason, they were forced to continue despite the anxiety that they did not know what kind of enemy would meet them. Just a few moments later, they saw the people who were like zombies. When Mirana lit the surroundings, the affected people suddenly rushed at them. They tried to fight the affected villagers until Mirana ordered Lena to burn them all. Mirana approached the red stone, but she seemed to be hypnotized by it. Fortunately, when Lena touched her, she came to her senses. They decided to bring the stone back to the Imperium to study it and prevent it from affecting others. Mirana immediately visited her father, who was obviously happy. She informed him of what they had seen in the hinterlands, so he remembered a dream where he saw a big red stone inside a cave. Because her father seemed worried, Mirana told him that it was just a bad dream. They also talked about the oracle's prophecy for him when she was born. Her father wanted her to go to the oracle and bring the stone, so he could discover the answers to his questions. Mirana did not want to leave her father again, but he forced her and she had to follow him. When they arrived at the temple, Mirana was immediately greeted by the oracle. When they started talking, the oracle mentioned something that Mirana could not understand. He also mentioned that if Mirana got the answers that she was looking for, she might just wish she had not learned about it. She also found out that the stone they brought was called Dare Stone. As she looked at it, she suddenly remembered a few incidents in her original life. Because of this, she found out that the invoker was the creator of wherever they were at the moment, but according to the oracle, it was done by the pillars of creation. He was about to mention the prophecy for her, but Mirana refused to hear it, saying that she already knew what was going to happen. So the oracle just asked her if it was fate or destiny, but Mirana did not answer and she immediately left. When she came out, she suddenly hugged Marcy, and her friend wondered why she became emotional. Then she told them to take care of her father first because she could not return to the Imperium at that time. Luna would have liked to go with her, but Marana preferred her to stay in the Imperium and help Lena protect her father. Since they did not understand her yet, she told them that she was just going to fix something, and then she and Marcy left. Philomena spoke to Althing to warn them of the gradual destruction of their moon. This was the reason why meteors gradually fell from space. She wanted to talk to their goddess, but the invoker suddenly came and apologized for what she said. Her father assured him that he would take care of the falling rocks. When they got home, Philomena tried to explain to her father what she had discovered, but her father preferred to keep this matter a mystery. He did not want her to be harmed and promised to take care of the problems. Even if she agreed to her father's request, she still would not stop seeking for truth. Marana went to Davion to ask for help so they could talk to Slyrak. They know each other by this time because they had met before. When Davion found out that she was looking for the dragon, he refused to help her because Slyrak was too dangerous. So when Marana and Marcy came out, they noticed the meteors falling. While Mian or Femrin was being worshipped by her followers, she was surprised when their appearance changed. At first, she did not recognize them until she remembered that they were day-fed. Because of this, she immediately sent her followers out. While Philomena was convincing their leader to talk to their goddess, they were surprised when the worshippers came out even before they finished. When they found out about the situation of their goddess, their leader immediately assigned Philomena to go to her. When Philomena entered, she caught their goddess calling the name Dayfed. She told the goddess that she would help her, but the goddess saw her as Terrorblade. Philomena immediately knelt and said that she loved her, causing the goddess to come back to her senses, but she lost consciousness. When the goddess woke up, they talked about Dayfed and the others, but the goddess could not recognize them. Philomena thought that there might be a connection between the destruction of the moon and the images seen by their goddess. She wanted to help the goddess, but she refused and just sent Philomena away. Due to the gradual destruction of the moon, the invoker remembered the discovery of Philomena, which was a flower that was following the moon's light. He thought of going there to fix the problem. When he arrived, he spoke to the person he imprisoned, whose name was Zet. After Philomena returned to the tower, she decided to talk to her father. That was when she found out what he was doing. She learned that her father was inside the moon. The invoker decided to take Zet's remaining energy so he could use it. But Zet did not let him and fought against the invoker. Philomena saw that her father was struggling, so she immediately went to his location. After he countered Zet's attack, they hurriedly left the moon. She told her father that she would look for answers to the mysteries that she discovered, and then she put him to sleep. While Davion was with a woman in his room, Marana came and disturbed him. She asked him again to go with her and find Slyrak, but he immediately refused. Marana made him feel guilty, so he was forced to come with them. Before they left, Davion instructed Bram to go back to the dragon hold and tell the other dragon knights about the eldworm dragon they found. After a few days of travel and spending the night in a forest, they were suddenly attacked by a monster. It was so strong that it caused the death of some of their companions. Davion fought against it, and after a while, Marana started to attack as well. The monster tried to attack Marana, but before it could reach her, she was able to defeat it. The creature turned out to be a hell bear, and there were more of them where she came from. Their other companions were so afraid, so the rest of them quickly left the area. They suddenly heard someone shouting, so they quickly moved to go to it. But when they came to the source, they saw a scary tree. When it attacked them, it managed to capture Marcy. Davion tried to save Marcy, but he too was captured by the scary tree. When Marana saw Marcy in Davion's condition, she remembered their death, so she used her strong power against the enemy. With its great strength, she was able to eliminate the monster immediately, and Davion was impressed by what he saw. For this reason, Davion became curious about the other things that Marana had not yet told him. At that moment, Marana was forced to tell Davion everything she knew about his life. After Davion heard everything that she said, he decided not to continue the mission with Marana. Despite this situation, Marana and Marcy still continued to travel to the location of Slyrak. When they got there, Mirana entered the cave alone, but it turned out that Caden was there already. Since she knew that it was his plan to kill Slyrak, she frankly told him that she would not let him do what he wanted. But Caden still had no intention of following her, so they fought. While Marcy was guarding the entrance, she saw Davion approaching her. He wanted to stop Mirana from waking up Slyrak, but Marcy tried to block him. He begged her to let him talk to Mirana, and luckily, Marcy immediately agreed. The two of them went together inside the cave, but a few moments later, Davion did something to block the way so he could leave Marcy. While the invoker was still unconscious, Philomena decided to read his mind. But as she was doing this, his father suddenly stopped her. Then she went to the Night Silver Woods to talk to Althing. That was when she found out that they were blaming the Helio Imperium as responsible why their goddess's condition was not stable. They wanted to attack the Helio Imperium, but she did not agree with what they were planning, and she immediately left to talk to their goddess again. When she entered the dimension of their goddess, she persuaded her to stop the invasion on the Helio Imperium because she believed that the kingdom was innocent. Philomena said that the answers to why their goddess was acting like this were inside her father's mind, but she could not enter it. But she told her that she was capable of entering the goddess's mind, and this was what she wanted to do to enlighten them. While Mirana and Caden continued to exchange attacks, Mirana was able to get close to Slyrak. She took the opportunity to wake up the dragon. So when Caden came, he immediately rushed to attack Slyrak. The two of them fought until Caden managed to hit Slyrak. Because of the power of his attack, Slyrak immediately fell. He was about to kill the dragon, but Mirana quickly stopped him. He was run over by the collapsed rocks, and Mirana could do nothing for him, so she apologized. Meanwhile, Philomena managed to persuade their goddess to agree on her request, and they started it right away. When she entered her mind, she immediately noticed the two moons, but one of them was already destroyed. She also happened to be at the time when she and Femrin went to the Broken Peaks to bring the lotuses to the invoker. Similar to what happened to Femrin, she also talked to her father. She tried to beg if she could talk to Philomena, but suddenly, she was taken to Philomena's room. Just a few moments later, Celamine suddenly came to the room and she was furious because the lotuses were stolen. When Celamine attacked, she was transported to the Foulfell where they were fighting Terrorblade. But this time, Terrorblade recognized her as Philomena. She realized that she was in another world, and in this world, she was dead already. Terrorblade also wanted to control her, but she remembered her goddess's words to look at the moon and it would guide her home. After she followed the words of their goddess, she successfully returned. Since the goddess remembered that she was Femrin, they decided to go to the invoker. When Davion reached Caden's location, he quickly helped him. But Caden knew that his life would not last much longer, so he assigned Davion to go to the dragon hole to tell the other dragon knights. He also left his sword to Davion before he took his last breath. When Mirana and Slyrak talked, she told him about her memories of the other world. She asked for guidance on what she should do, but the dragon just told her that she did not have to do anything or change anything. A few moments later, Davion came, who was furious with Mirana. He rushed at Mirana, but Marcy also came to block his attack. Mirana immediately told Marcy to let Davion go, and then she clarified that she needed him more. She also mentioned to Davion about his fate in the ruined world, and she would not let it happen again. Mirana and Marcy left immediately, but they did not let Davion follow them. When Philomena and Femrin arrived at the tower, the goddess let her out first. Femrin woke the invoker and informed him that she remembered everything he had done to them. She convinced him to tell Philomena everything and then she left. On the other hand, as Mirana and Marcy were far away, Luna came, who had been looking for them for a long time. Mirana found out that the enemies were starting to attack, and that her father needed her back in the kingdom. Luna added that the Senate made his uncle as the new king, and Tyhomer was appointed as viceroy. Aside from that, her father was seriously ill and Corioltavi was also attacking the kingdom. While the soldiers of the Helio Imperium were fighting with them, Lena also started to join the war. After her attack, the enemies decided to retreat first. But they knew very well that the enemies would come back by nightfall, and they would attack again just like what they did before. A few moments later, someone handed over a letter and it turned out to be from Drycy. He wanted to meet with Lena, but Lena said that she would think about it first. When Marana arrived at the palace, she went to her father's room. At first, he thought that she was his wife, so she clarified that she was his daughter. After hearing this, his father remembered that her mother was dead and it would be the 5th year the next day. Marana told her father everything she discovered while she was traveling. Even if what she was saying was unbelievable, his father understood her. While Philomena was watching the moon, her father approached her. She expressed her thoughts and she could not accept what he did just to make her live again. She thought it was the first time a new world had been rebuilt, but it had been done before. So his father clarified that they were in the 12,403rd world. He said that many of these experiments were conducted to learn how to create a stable galaxy. But Philomena knew that what her father did would be pointless because the world would still explode. His father was complacent that even if this happened, his tower would still survive and both of them too. However, this was not what Philomena wanted to happen. When Davion arrived at the Hopstad, Bram was also there with the other dragon knights. But a few moments later, they were suddenly hit by a strong tremor. They immediately came out and saw the meteors falling from the destroyed moon. While they were helping those who were covered by debris of the tavern, Davion noticed something strange on one of them who immediately attacked him. He was able to kill the affected comrade, but it turned out that the same thing happened to their fellow dragon knights as well. They tried to fight them until they were hit again by a meteor. They both survived, but someone suddenly attacked Davion. When Davion regained consciousness, he was in another dimension and he saw Slyrak. He immediately thought that he was in a dream, so Slyrak told him that it was not just a dream. This was the moment when the dragon told him about the Ember soul which they hid in his body to fool Terrorblade. He revealed that he was the one who brought them to the Eye or Marana. After hearing this, Davion learned the truth, so he wanted to see Marana again. That time, Bram was still trying to fight the enemies. When one of the enemies was about to crush him, Davion suddenly rose to save him. They both helped each other in fighting the enemies until they defeated them. After a few minutes of rest, they started walking to find Marana. While Marana was watching over her father, Luna suddenly entered because of Shabara's order to lock her up with her father. But Marana insisted that her uncle had no right to do this to her. Since she still had Luna's loyalty, she ordered her to gather their soldiers. They went to the throne to demote his uncle. Legatus was about to try to attack Marana, but Luna immediately stopped her. As they were about to leave, they were blocked by Legatus soldiers. But when Lena came, Legatus was surprised that her soldiers also knelt before Marana. While talking to them, Marana suddenly felt weak and remembered her mother. He immediately went to his father's room and found him lying on the floor. When he opened his eyes, he told her that her mother had appeared and was singing for the two of them. And she could do nothing when her father lost his life. On the other hand, after thinking about the situation, Philomena decided to try Archronicus. While she was working on it, her father suddenly appeared. He said he came not to stop her, but to teach her how to do it properly. Then she also felt the souls of the Eldworm dragons. After a few moments, she was asked to think about the world she wanted to create. But before she did it, she was reminded that she must sacrifice the world they live in. Since Philomena could not do it, she immediately stopped what she was doing. While the two dragon knights were in the forest, Davion saw Philomena, causing him to lose his focus. He did not mind it that much at first and they just continued walking. Because of the death of Marana's father, she was appointed as the new leader and known as the Empress of the Sunday. After the ceremony, she immediately convened a meeting to discuss the ongoing chaos and what had happened in the Hopstad. To prevent the same chaos from happening to them, Marana decided to make an alliance with the elves. After a few days of traveling, Davion and Bram finally arrived at the Helio Imperium. But when they tried to talk to Marana, her advisor did not allow them because of their shallow reasons. Not long after, Marcy approached them, causing Davion to feel even more hopeless. To make his explanation easier, he showed his transformation. Because of this, he was able to get Marcy's approval and he was able to meet Marana. They talked about Davion's memories of the other world as well. Since they both understood their situation, Davion took the opportunity to tell Marana about the imminent destruction of the world. But he thought of another solution to stop it, and that was to ask help from the invoker. Marana thought about it carefully until she decided to follow Davion's suggestion. The very next day, they immediately went to the invoker's tower using Marana's power. Philomena met them and Davion recognized her as the one he saw in his mind the other day. Since they were looking for the invoker, Philomena told them that her father could no longer help them but they could still work together. Once again, the invoker went to the moon to end everything. He and Zet fought, and this time he won. Philomena showed to them the machinery that they would use to repair the moon. Suddenly, the invoker appeared to tell them that the destruction of the moon was certain and they could do nothing to stop it. Marana intended to fight the invoker but he just took her to space where she could not see the sun that was giving her power. The invoker summoned monsters to fight Davion, so Philomena thought that they were just a distraction, and it only meant that they still had time left. Davion and the others decided to face the monsters so that Philomena could do what she had to do. Even Femrin was also using her power to prevent the destruction of the moon. She and Philomena worked together, but the moon still exploded. For this reason, its parts fell towards their world. Lena decided to try to destroy the meteors because she knew that she was good at this. But she could not handle all of them, causing her to die in this mission. Before Marana was completely covered by ice, Femrin found a way to get her. They had a conversation until Marana realized that the goddess next to her was Femrin. While Davion and the others were watching what was happening outside, he suddenly felt the death of other Eldworm dragons. They thought of using the pillars of creation in the forge, and the invoker felt it. Because of this, he quickly returned to stop them from what they were planning. Luna rushed at him, but Philomena took them inside the tower so they would not be harmed. Fortunately, Davion still remembered the way around the tower and where the exit was. The invoker decided to destroy the book because without it, Philomena would not be able to use the forge. Davion and his companions successfully got out of the tower, so before the invoker completely destroyed the book, Davion approached them and transformed into Hybrian. He took the invoker into space and the two of them fought. Philomena immediately thought that the two might kill each other, but Bram knew that this was not the case because Davion was definitely just giving her enough time. Marana suddenly came who still believed that it was not too late to save the world. Then Femrin also appeared to advise Philomena on what she should do to defeat her father. The invoker managed to stop Davion, but he did not expect that Femrin would come to help Davion. After taking Davion to safety, Philomena appeared to her father. She showed him her hand and the marks that were similar to what happened to her in the other world that caused her death. After a few minutes of their conversation, Philomena managed to convince her father to follow her wishes. When they returned, that was when Philomena told him the plan that she had in mind. To bring back the previous world, they would use Marana's power. They knew that Marana was the eye, the sun in the sky, and the unchanging in the world. That was the moment when Marana suddenly remembered what Kashura said, that the only thing that did not change was the sun or the worldworm. She realized Philomena's plan, and it was to bring them back to reality or to the old world. Even though she knew what it meant if they did this, she still agreed for everyone's safety. Using the remaining soul of the last dragon which was in Davion's body, they executed the plan. Marana was in so much pain that all she could do was to cry. A few moments later, she was able to restore everything in the real world and the invoker failed his plan. When Luna saw the invoker, she wanted to kill him, but she thought he deserved to rot in hell. They did not stay there any longer and they returned to their world. I hope you like it, and give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel so you won't miss newly uploaded videos. Thank you for supporting this channel.